Good evening. Welcome to Moments with Mary on this memorable Monday, June 7th, 2021. I want to say thank you to all healthcare workers and frontliners for continuously taking care of us during these times. I ask you to continue to be safe, mask, and stay away from crowds if possible. Today, I will share a bit about Sojourner Truth and one of her original speeches. Sojourner Truth, 1797 to 1883, was a slave and the mother of slaves, and who was never formally educated. She was the first Black woman in the nation to speak out publicly against slavery. She turned out to be a spellbound orator. She began her speeches, "Children, I talk to God, and God talks to me." She was born in Ulster County, New York, and her original name was Isabella Van Wagner. When she was freed by the New York State Emancipation Act in 1827, she renamed herself Sojourner Truth. Sojourner is a traveler, one who visits temporarily. She battled slavery across the land. She was a woman of great mental, physical, and spiritual strength, and she was respected by social reformers everywhere. She once said, "The Constitution, I feel for my rights, but never ain't any there." The Constitution counted a slave as only 3/5 of a person. In determining representation in Congress, women and Native Americans were not counted at all. When the Constitution was composed in 1787, there were about 600,000 slaves, or about 160 whole Black people in the 13 states. Miss Truth, famous "Ain't I a Woman" speech of the 1855 Women's Rights Convention, reproached men for their belief that women did not deserve equal rights. Thousands of freed slaves moved into Washington, D.C. during the Civil War, doubling the area's population. Mrs. Truth was appointed a counselor to the freedmen by President Abraham Lincoln. She fought segregation by refusing to move to the back of the streetcar. That is, to sit in the section that Blacks only were supposed to sit in. Okay, now I'll share one of her speeches entitled "Ain't I a Woman?" Sojourner Truth, 1851. Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I've borne 13 children and seen most of all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard. And ain't I a woman? They talk about this thing in the head. What's this, they call it? Member of audience, a whisperer with intellect. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours hold a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then that little man in black there, he says, women can't have as much rights as men, 'cause Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man has nothing to do with him. If the first woman God made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. Obliged to be hearing me, and now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say. And that's Ain't I a Woman by Sojourner Truth. Thank you for listening and watching. Be safe, mask, get vaccinated, and refrain from massive crowds. I ask you to join your local Optimist Club and visit me at the book gallery for beauty and books. Thank you for listening. I love you. Goodbye, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.